Ed Rankin.
Here.
Paul Bissonnette is here, and Mark Eastman is absent this evening. Next item is skate park proposal from Skate Bucksport. And Mr. Cole has left some stuff that I'm sure they intended to go over for everyone.
At your last meeting, you voted to fund up to $1,500 in transportation costs to bring a ramp that was being donated for a skate park. And there was a discussion of was there room at Public Works, or did the town have a storage location? And I've spoken to our Public Works director, and they can do that. However, a better idea, so that it doesn't have to be loaded, unloaded, loaded, unloaded, was thought to be if there was a location where it could be left, where it would then be installed, that would be a more expeditious and less likely for disaster. Pick it up, put it down, pick it down, move it, all that kind of stuff. And the original request from Skate Bucksport was for the location next to Ian's Playground, which has a surface that would allow for installation without pouring concrete or doing those kind of things. And that, although there are other areas that might be potential, that and I discussed this with Mr. Cole earlier this week, was that if the ramp was delivered and put at that location and installed and treated with whatever it is it's treated with so that it can be outside, that would be a good location for that ramp in order to give it some time and assess use, positives, negatives, how many people are interested, how many people are not, is it a good location? It would be an easy location to monitor in terms of those kind of things, in order to determine if there should be more pieces added to it, or if the town should think about a larger space in a different location. But the other thing that it does is, if it's done that way, allows the group to have something that's functional that it can use as a base for grant applications for additional stuff that goes with my technical term, but the additional components that could be in a skate park from something that was operational, which in grant applications, if you've got nothing and are doing nothing, people are less likely to give you money than if you made a start and you have something that's on the ground that has elicited support, that you can document that X number of riders a week are using this, or those kind of things would be an easier. So I'm not stealing the thunder of the group who's here to, I'm explaining the conversation that I've had with them in terms of if the council were to support this idea that moving it once is a better idea than moving it and leaving it somewhere and then moving it again. Because truly, as a location, it's the one that currently is set up to actually have it happen. So that's my conversations with the group thus far. And
Sure. Sorry.
Thank you for saying all that. I tried to illustrate most of what you just said in this. You brought up some things I didn't know, so thank you. I'm not going to read all of this to you. This isn't a presentation. It's more of just our thoughts put on paper. And of course, if you have questions, we're here. We threw out 4 possible locations. 2 of those that we feel are much ready to go that we could place the ramp on and assemble it and have some pavement and a solid footing for the ramp. And as Ms. Lassard mentioned, you didn't use this word right now, but when we were speaking, you used the term beta, just like kind of a test run before we jump into breaking earth and concrete, big ask and big fundraising efforts such as that. So for that reason, we really feel as a group that Ian's Playground would be a good spot. We've been meeting up there for our meetings, and when we're sitting there, we're seeing families with kids of all ages. That's a huge advantage of this location, and just accessibility. It's right there. It's already being used for purposes such as this. There are skateboarders on the old basketball court on a regular basis. Also, just visibility. I can't talk enough about how good of a location that would be. The ice skating rink would also be great. We do have some cons. One of those, honestly, is I know that there's talk about reducing the size of the ice rink anyways, but we would really hate for it to interfere with any programming that the YMCA currently is trying to pull off there. Additionally, we are concerned about water drainage. It seems like there's a never-ending puddle there, and I'm not sure if the boards from the rink, if those were lifted, if it would just magically drain out, or if it's actually just a dip in the pavement there. So that's a concern of ours, and honestly, low visibility. You're not necessarily going to see it from the road, and I don't need to get into that. Stuff happens. And then some kind of just random locations that we thought would be great if we could choose anywhere. Would be somewhere on the waterfront walkway. And even though it's a privately owned property, this is always thrown out for projects, so we figured why not? The mill parking lot behind what is now the Methodist Church. If anything, we just want to express flexibility in this situation, and at the same time, maybe push you towards Ian's Playground. There have been a lot of questions. I'm not going to read this all to you, but I pulled up kind of a basic write-up from the skate park project titled, What Rules and Policies Should Our Skate Park Have? That's a really good, quick read that kind of gives you the breakdown of what they suggest as one of the #1 nonprofits funding skate parks. We also pulled together Bangor Skate Park's rules as well as Belfast as just kind of two comparable things, just again so you can see what those typically look like. Also, there have been questions about who can use the skate park. Do you want to say it?
It's pretty much everything you can think of, from skateboards, bicycles, scooters, that kind of stuff, just no motorized vehicles.
No motorized vehicles, because it's
Easiest way to destroy a ramp is a motorized vehicle.
And we don't want motorbikes up there, I mean, in all reality. And then on another page here, I wrote, a thriving skate park is more than a park. It becomes a cultural hub and builds community. And again, just to try to illustrate, what an active skate park looks like and what's happening on a regular basis. We've got some examples of the Bangor skate park, a couple photos, in the bottom photo, I wish it was in color, but you'd be able to see that it's people of all ages there skating, children to adults. And then to the right of that photo, a skate park contest. So active programming, and it's a little too small, but we've got some big business names there, a lot of breweries getting involved in that. It really does build a community, and that's something that we look forward to. And then below that, the Overlock Memorial Park in Belfast, a skate park work party, going out there in the spring, cleaning it up, touching things up. We really look forward to getting to that point someday where we need to be doing cleanup days, and plan on doing that. And again, Belfast, this is a little small, but you do see Belfast Co-op on the top of that photo there on the bottom left.
I believe that was a $4,000 check that they, helped raise funds for the skate park, and then to the right of that is the cleanup crew. So again, we really want to push that we're looking to not just have a facility, but build a community and connect the dots in that way. And then we just did want to show that we do have currently on a petition that we have not really been pushing hard yet. That'll happen when we begin fundraising. But we do have 209 signatures as of this afternoon on an online petition. And that does not even begin to show the amount of comments that Jamie and I have received in conversation with family, friends, and strangers that have recognized us in this regard. So that's really, I think, all I have. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up, or?
Pretty much the goal of this meeting is just to tack down a location, because once we can do that, we can really start the fundraising aspect. I mean, I don't expect anything massive to happen this summer, but it gives us the rest of the summer and the winter time to really start getting this ball rolling, and hopefully just self-fund a lot of this. And then, as you mentioned, with like the competitions and all that gets bankrolled into maintenance and helping facilitate expansion or whatever it may be. So it doesn't really fall on the town so much. It does at the beginning, but later on it kind of becomes self-sufficient.
So the ramp can be used as is by itself temporarily?
Once put together.
Once put together, and in order to truly take care of it, which is important, we do need to get the final layer, the surface protection of gator skin, which is some money that we're gonna have to fundraise for.
Yep.
But other than that, ready to go. Yes.
How does it anchor? I mean, it doesn't matter, but I was curious.
You mean as far as like literally
Anchored to the ground.
Yeah. So purely the weight of it is how it typically is installed without an official anchor, and that can just go, right on pavement, right on concrete, really, however, it best fits in the environment where it goes. And you want to speak to that a little bit more with the building knowledge that you have, or did
Yeah.
I?
So with any bending item like that, pretty much you use some type of like 2-part bond, glue or adhesive, countersunk screws so they're nice and flat, and that will keep it forever until you need to replace it again.
Sorry, is that what you meant by anchor, or were you talking about like anchoring?
I was thinking anchoring to the ground.
Yeah.
The ground itself is just the general weight.
It's just heavy enough to...
Yeah.
That tends to be enough. I personally haven't seen anything in New England where this stuff blows away.
Even the smaller ramps, I mean, it takes 3 or 4 guys to try to reconfigure a part.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you've seen the inner workings of a ramp like this, but there are more 2x4s than you would ever want to work with. They get heavy.
I can't get on anything that comes out from underneath me, so now I am not familiar with it.
It's interesting, Derek, when you handed me this right before the meeting started, you mentioned like this is kind of the inverse of how you build a skate park, right? Like you do all the planning and then you get the materials for it and go from there.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing here, I think, you can look at it as that, well, that's not the way it's always been done, and so you should be cautious, and I think you should.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the whole looking at it as a beta test.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, we have a place that we know may have some issues, but could work.
Yeah.
Let's try it. Let's see what works. But I think it's important as part of that it's everybody, everybody has a stake there is part of the test, meaning there will be things that are good and bad for Skate Bucksport. There will be things that are good and bad for the town of Bucksport, including the people that already are, whether it's the batting cages, the snack shack. I kind of want to see, before we make any other moves, I think I'd kind of like to see the beta test itself. If it's there, what are the issues that aren't issues that we thought would be? What are the things that we didn't think would be issues that in fact are? And get input from everybody. Because then if it does have to be moved again, okay. But if in fact it doesn't, and everybody, and we have buy-in from everyone, then I think that's what takes us to your last page, where you have people making donations, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure that's stuff that you've already thought of, but, and I do want to read through the rules too, because I think the rules are an interesting piece. But I like the examples you provided. But I mean, that's my 2 cents. Is I actually have, in a far different way, having been part of beta tests. The good thing is that you're kind of jumping in, and you're willing to say we're jumping in, knowing that there are going to be problems, and we're going to see in real time how we fix those problems. So, or if those things are actually problems that we thought would be. So it is an interesting scenario that is being proposed here.
I mean, it's great because often these projects start with a bunch of people coming to people such as yourself and the position that they're in, just being like, here, we want this giant skate park, and here's all of our hopes and dreams poured into this, and it's so unique that we've gotten this donation, it's ready to ride, and it truly puts us in a position where we can put it down and just start to see what happens, and live through mistakes and cheer for the successes. And again, I mean, for me, the key is when we get to a point where, there's some comfort or more demand or whatever the trigger is, to really start going towards something bigger whenever that time occurs, whenever it's appropriate.
Well, and that's going to be our first kind of fundraising building blocks, is each step at a time. First is going to be this, protective material for the ramp. Next is going to be, possibly paving or concreting a certain plot, wherever that, choice is going to be. But each one of these problems, we just take one chip at a time instead of trying to, like you said, build this massive dream skate park. You really just have to work for it. You can't just be given it.
I think an incremental approach to this. We want it to be successful, and we want it to be long-term. And I think putting our toes in the water in that endeavor to move it forward stands a better chance of long-term success than from 0 to 60, which is, it hasn't been here before. It's sort of, we have to bring a whole community along with us. There's more people than skaters, and so getting community support behind another activity for which was primarily young people and families is a building process. And so I guess that my only concern now in listening is that if there's not going to be the availability to put this product on this, it shouldn't be out in the weather until there is.
So,
And if we put it there in the location that it's going to be assembled, that it couldn't get put together until you had that stuff.
we already have a solution. If it's there, if it's put together, it's not a problem if we don't immediately have the gator skin, because I have the accessibility to a shrink wrap gun, shrink wrap everything else I would need to completely weatherproof it for the season until next year, when we would need to do so. And that would just be on me myself. That's not a problem.
Well, I was in thinking through what I didn't want is people using it before it was ready.
Yeah, I mean, like, if that's the
Direction that we wanted to go, which totally makes sense to put it where it's going to go, so it's not lifted up and moved again. Like, if the community was okay with it being stored somewhere right in that vicinity, ultimately what you have are 3 pieces. You have the flat bottom of the ramp, the curved portion, the transition, and the other side. And ultimately, they just stack right on top of each other, can be secured with, like, literally lumber and screws, so no one's taking this thing apart, and then shrink wrapped. The only thing you're going to deal with there is, do you want a shrink wrapped unassembled ramp in that area, like taking up a parking spot, or if you even want to see that. And that's for you folks to decide. It makes sense to me, but you know, I would totally understand if that wasn't a desirable thing. But I will say, if people see that sitting there, it's only going to help us in our fundraising efforts for, you know, the estimate of roughly $4,500 to, you know, get the material for that and the material to, you know, make sure it's shimmed and level and all of that stuff. I mean, we already plan on working hard, but I have a feeling that would make some people work even harder for this.
And once it gets here, I plan to immediately assess, you know, what it was made out of in the first place. A lot of plywood is okay for the most part. It just can't sit all winter long with snow weight on it and all that stuff. You know, if it has a little bit of rain on it, it's probably usually not the end of the world. I don't expect this to be made out of, like, you know, cheap plywood.
Particle board.
Right,
Yeah.
particle board or OSB or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess we can talk about that, but I just would mention that on top of that, if it is there, because to me, the key piece here is communication. Because people are going to, you know, oh geez, there's a skate park going in. I haven't heard any philosophical opposition, but I think that the key here, if we're going to phrase this as a beta tester, we do it as a beta tester. And the communication is, we want all the things that everybody likes, no matter how small or big they are, and we want all the things that people don't like, no matter how small or big they are, so that we can fully assess whether this is the right place for this moving forward, because I don't think it's in anybody's interest for it to be one of those things that has to be moved, if at all, more than once. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how the rest of us feel about it being right there over the course of the winter, shrink wrapped, et cetera.
I don't have a problem with it. Again, I think put it in the location that we want it, for this test especially.
Yep.
I'm just
I don't
gonna
think
say
it would take
I-
up a parking spot if we put it inside where it would actually go. It won't even be out in the park.
Yeah, I don't.
Because it could be sort of boxed up in that location and shrink that just as easily as it could in the parking spot.
Totally.
Okay?
You've got no baseball games for the rest of this year, nothing like that, so I don't see it interfering with anything.
I can't wait to put a sign on it if that happens that says, you know, we're talking for us. I know we have to have authorization for things like this, but I think seeing that's going to really help our case.
The only thing is soccer this year, because the middle school fields are off, but they only use the field anyway, and they're going to use the whole baseball field.
Yep. And they favor the outfield anyway.
Yes, yeah, it's positioned in the outfield, so there should be nothing up that way. The only thing is the dock spot on the map, that's where there's a storm drain. I just don't know where that goes, but that would be the future. This is going to be your best location. The ice rink still has water on it, and I don't remember the last time it rained.
Yeah, that storm drain, that's, when this all started, a bunch of us were out there in like February as it was melting,
Yeah.
and water was going right where it was supposed to go. It was great.
Yeah, no, it does its job now. That would be
Yes.
the only thing is, will that redirect and have any impact on that? But other than that, this is the best location by far.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Yes. Just one more.
Yeah.
And the reason I ask that this decision is important is that the transport of the ramp is either Monday or Tuesday of next week. And it needs a location. You know, so the question is there any objection to putting it at that Ian's Playground site? Because that would be or are you not comfortable with that and you want it at the town garage until something?
So do we need a motion to put this to the council, or is this just something? we
This
can do
is
in
a
the
piece of
community?
something arriving. This is not a permanent,
Right.
this is a beta test for the skate park, which the council as a whole has approved the basic
Transport.
purchase of this, bringing it back, and it's with the understanding that it becomes a municipal piece of infrastructure. So, because if the likelihood is that that's where it's going to be, I would prefer to be able to just, when it comes, put it there. And, I mean, clearly, nothing's going to be done with it before the 25th if the council decided between now and then, or, I don't know, the world blew up, that Public Works has the ability to move it to the town garage, where they have a space out back that can be, but having it on concrete as opposed to the ground, or trying to put something on the ground so that it's not on dirt, which is what it would be at the town garage. If we want this donated ramp to have a good life, it needs to start off in a place where it's less likely to be damaged by weather or other things than if we try to jury-rig something where we're sitting it on blocks on the ground or something that may not work as well as other things. So I guess the question is if there's any objection from this committee, which is all but one of the council that will be present tonight, to just have the ramp that's being transported here located at the Ian's Playground site. It's not going to be assembled now anyway because it needs stuff.
Sure.
And will likely be shrink wrapped for the winter once it gets its coating of whatever the coating is.
And I can shrink wrap in either location, but again, the less times it has to be moved. I mean, these are pretty durable ramps, but the more times you move any structure, you risk the structural integrity.
Thinking the same thing, I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
How quickly would you, because the only advantage I see to keeping it out at the town garage versus down at the playground is that at the town garage it'll be easier to keep people off of it in one fashion or another. How quickly would you be able to shrink wrap it after it arrives?
So that's pretty much a two-part thing.
Yep.
It's if we can get the gator skin, I can actually install the gator skin first, and it will only take me honestly a couple hours.
Okay.
To shrink wrap all the items. But if we can get the gator skin quick enough, I can assemble the ramp. People can use it a little bit this fall. Because that's honestly, for me, the best time to skate. You're not out there dying in the sun all day. It's nice and cool. And it's just kind of a time to be able to try it out. All the kids are going to be excited and be even more excited next year when we unwrap it. Unless they really wanted to get into it, once it's shrink wrapped, nobody will be able to access it. But I can shrink wrap it.
It's in a very visible place.
Right.
If anyone was vandalizing it or attempting to do it, it's across the street from a senior housing project. Trust
Right
me,
up the road from
there will
the
be
fire
enough
station.
eyes on it. That
And they would really have to try, because once you shrink wrap that, it's like a trampoline.
Yeah.
I'm in support of having it brought right to the site where we're going to do the tests. I'm in support of the whole project, but
Okay.
Oh, good.
I'm good as well. Totally. Yep. I think it's.
So I'll let Jay know.
Okay.
When you know when it's coming,
Yes.
before 4:30, either Monday or Tuesday,
Yes.
we'll have Public Works available to help offload it at the site and get it arranged the way you need it.
And to speak to that, I hadn't had a chance to follow up with you yet. When we spoke, I had clear days of Monday and Tuesday, and I did see your email. So I think just internally, like the scheduler versus Kyle Chandler, who owns the business and has been talking with Bo Lambert, the donor, there have been some miscommunications there, I think. So I wasn't able to nail that down today, but I hope to tomorrow. So I'll email you.
The vendor, because we needed a W-9, just said they would invoice us after it was done.
Beautiful.
So you don't need to worry about a check.
That's perfect. Okay, great. May I ask one clarifying question? Just to make sure. So, we would like to start fundraising immediately now that we have a site and the ramp coming. And we just don't want to overstep any boundaries or anything. So we have just had it approved that when we are prepared to assemble that ramp and we have the funds to get the covering, that is where the ramp is going to sit for this test. So we are, at this point, approval to set that thing up and get it ready on site. Cool, okay. Great.
And I've had communication with someone from your group in terms of donations
Oh,
for
yes.
this. This is a town thing. There'll be an account set up in the town accounting system that if donations are turned in, they noted for skate park, they'll be receipted and it will be dedicated revenue
Yes.
for this. But since it's a municipal endeavor, anybody's donations are tax deductible, which is a positive. But I explained to the person who contacted what we needed for information when people made donations, so that we can.
My wife.
I think by us.
Yeah, Jade, she's going to be our treasurer.
Or more or less just keeping track on our end and then doing as you said with the suggested forms and everything.
And being the wonderful future accountant that she is, she has made up plenty of little templates of how we're going to handle all of that.
So I'll just give you a quick copy of that so you can see it.
Kind of know how we're going to go about that.
And any
Input, of course.
Any input, Bill?
Well, she reached out. I
yeah,
was pretty clear, I think, with what we needed.
yeah, that's
She's pretty
awesome.
smart.
Absolutely.
Well, thank
Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, I know it's approved, but any questions or anything, just ask away. You know where we are, and also there is a petition. I don't know if it's appropriate for you all to sign it, but there's a link right there, so feel free.
This is excellent.
Like I said, she's pretty smart.
Yeah, actually, before you go, I will say that your presentations have been spot on, and I haven't looked at that, but the town manager says it's excellent, I trust her. And I continue that.
Okay.
I think that has been a big part of your success thus far.
The
Thank
whole
you.
proposal from day one.
Thank you.
Yep.
We worked hard on that.
For those of us who are financial nitpickers,
Yeah.
this is
I'll let her know. She'll probably
Okay,
watch.
good. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. There's nothing else on the agenda except adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh,
Sorry, the tennis courts are supposed to be on there tonight as well. But I'm not sure if that was left off because I'm on vacation this week.
It was, I did the agenda, so it
So-
isn't, but we can talk about it.
yeah, we have time. Yep.
Can you make a motion to add an item to the agenda?
I'd be happy to. I'll make a motion to add an item to the agenda surrounding discussion of tennis courts.
Second.
Favor? Mr. Rotella?
Hi, okay, so we've had some citizens calling the office, reaching out, meeting us at the site, and I know there's been different talk about what to do, whether we still want to have one, whether we want to move it. I got a quote for replacing that tennis court. It's between $200,000 and $225,000. And that's the same thing if it moves to the ice rink. What was suggested to me is, because they're not sure, the ice rink nor the current location, is that we have some borings done, some test sites, to see what the ground materials are underneath. They're afraid that's why that's failing. They were consulted to go to the ice rink because it's proposed on the other half of that ice rink to put, the YMCA would like to put pickleball courts over there. So half pickleball, half ice skating rink. So they've been to both locations and suggested before we do anything, if we plan to do anything with that tennis court, that we have test borings done at both locations.
So we're looking at 225 to 250, either spot?
Yep. The tennis courts are still being used even to this day. I drove by the other night. Yeah, it's got lights, but it's still a game. You see kids, older folks. That I've been doing some research on the tennis court and how it came about. That was back in the 70s, and it's had some updates to
obviously the court itself has had some stuff done. Matter of fact, one of his quotes was, whoever did the last work on it did a pretty good job, but as you can tell now, it's separating. So of course, when the seasons change, I asked the Public Works crew if they could put some hot top, and that's not even possible. You can't even hot top that anymore. So people are playing at their own risk right now.
It was suggested not to shut it down, but just to let people know that they are playing at their own risk.
So it needs to be completely redone. Fence.
Yes.
Yeah, something needs to happen.
Fence is garbage.
The vents needs to be replaced. The lights still work, which is more than the ice rink, but and the timers are kind of antiquated, but Joe's still around, so we have issues with that. But that's what it's going to take to fix the tennis courts, or move it between 200 and 225,000, and that's not including your testing or if anything additional has to be put underneath for underlay or whatnot.
Why are they suggesting, and I don't know that, that's what I'm at, why are they suggesting borings at the site where it is now? Given that it's been there for a while, it's probably just a matter of
Because of the
making assumptions.
no, because of the size of the cracks, where it's gotten progressively worse, and we're doing it every so often to fix it. And as far as I know, Nick Tomasco was the last one who had anyone there to fix the cracks, and whatever seal they used was a good material, but the cracks have just gotten so wide.
Any idea as to how much the boring test?
No, they gave me some information while I was out, call SW Cole, so I can contact them to figure out how much that would be. But before we go anywhere, I guess it's important to know, do we still want a tennis court? Do we still need a tennis court? Is this still the right location for the tennis court? Because remember, when that tennis court was built, the science wing was not where it is. There was no science wing. So, and there was federal grant monies used to construct that tennis court.
I believe we're past the lifetime on that, but I would have to check with the government to see if we can even dismantle that.
To see if we can even what?
If we can even move it.
When you take federal monies, you can't just say,
Hey, we no longer have a tennis court. You've got federal monies, you have to go through. It was sort of like the conversation over the Ian playground.
Yep.
They were shocked that we no longer had a wooden playground. It was never communicated to them, so it's okay, they'll still work with us, but we need to get their blessing. But I guess it's
good to know before I call them, do we still want it? Do we still want it in the same location? What do we want to do with the tennis court? We kind of need an answer.
If it stays where it is, we had talked about like making it one tennis court and 2 or 3 pickleball courts, correct?
we here have, the folks at the YMCA are adamant about having the pickleball courts on the other side of the ice rink. And I'm not even, I don't know why. I don't know why you wouldn't keep them together unless people really are looking at having more parking in the current location of the tennis court. Taking that down, but then there's no mention of what you do about the tennis court. So there's two groups of people talking about it. I'm in the middle. I'm trying to maintain what I can there, and we're trying to keep it.
But we're actually mowing the tennis court right now, weed whacking it. It's that bad. The grass is growing up through it, literally weed whacking it.
Because I don't see enough room at the ice skating rink for a tennis court and 2 or 3 pickleball.
As I mentioned earlier, that ice rink needs some serious. It still has water, and you all know how much it's rained here. I mean, there's enough water in there that it's a wading pool right now. That really needs to be addressed at some point, but.
The discussion was that ice rink and the configuration is just too big.
Yeah.
It's larger than it needs to be, and the wise proposal was to downsize that to a portion of it and put pickleball courts on the rest of it. There was no discussion of it. The tennis court was a separate discussion.
Yeah.
It was never anticipated that would be in that location. It was that a project that put in pickleball courts and that would utilize that site, all of it, but it would require significant work because of the condition of the ice rink itself.
But now that discussion changes. If you want to move it to the ice skating rink, you can't. We can't spend $250,000 here and there.
Well, the question is, where's your ice rink,
Right.
pickleball courts, tennis courts, you know, if you want everything, what's the priority of?
Right, because we hemmed and hawed over this when it came to the baseball field, and let's be honest, the wall at the baseball field, and in terms of that facility's use, I'm making a big assumption here without hard data. It's far more used. There's far more public involvement at that particular place than there would be at the tennis court. Now, that said, I know there are people that I live very close there. I still see people using the tennis court despite the condition it's in. But I think Rich is right to ask the question: do we even still want to have the tennis court? And I don't know that that's for us to decide at this juncture. I'd really like some input. And if there are a number of people that are committed to that, fine. But then it becomes the council's decision: do we want to spend $250,000 on that in order to make it go?
Where pickleball is extremely popular now.
Yep.
And those folks were playing pickleball on that court, but not there. I believe they're just playing indoors now in Orland. They have not been out this year. Their nets were destroyed, and in one area. So that's what the snow fence. If you've been up there, the reason why there was a snow fence, there was one court on one side of the snow fence, another court on the other side of the snow fence to keep the balls from going over. So, but those nets got destroyed this spring, so there is nothing for them to utilize.
And we don't have it. I mean, again, we don't have, I'm just stating facts. We don't have a tennis team at Bucksport High School. That would be a contributing factor if in fact we did, and we don't. And
I don't believe we ever had that.
not that I'm aware of.
So
So
back through the old notes, people used to volunteer to do lessons and everything, and by the early '80s, those volunteers stopped coming up. So it's just something else that's just basically been like.
yeah, I mean, my personal opinion on this is that I'd really like to see some data about how much use that is getting. Understanding that data is going to be a little skewed because of the shape of the court. There are fewer people using it, but regardless, let's see try to gauge the interest and then go from there. That would be my 2 cents.
The survey, would you prefer me to do a survey, or?
Maybe the Y could help out with that, but yeah,
Could we do a survey of like pickleball,
Tennis.
and
Ice
ice
skating.
rink, and just do a survey and
yeah.
put it in
Yes, because
order?
the ice rink's also a federal grant as well.
Yeah, put it in order as to what.
Right. Yeah.
And when does that
I would think
expire?
that the pickleball ice rink would be a much lower cost
Yeah.
I think so too.
installation than the tennis courts, because the base, the concrete is already there for. I don't think pickleball requires.
No,
the
it would just
level
need,
of-
we just need to get proper drainage into
Well,
the ice rink, yeah.
yeah, but it's unlike a tennis court, which has a different kind of surface and that kind of thing. And
But yeah, the data could show that there are far better uses for that small parcel of land than a tennis court, especially, parking. Again, I'm not advocating for any of that. I want to be perfectly clear, but I'm just saying I would like to see some data before we commit, or even go down the road of committing that type of money. But that's just my opinion.
We'll come up with something to figure out what to do with that.
Where's the major crack again? It's been a few years.
In the tennis court?
Yeah.
When you walk in through the fence closest to the science wing, you just go in, it's that court. It's not the far court that's as bad, is it?
It's getting there.
It's but
Yeah.
the one that's closest is the
one
one that's
closest
had
with
the most
where the
issues. Yeah.
stanchions are.
Right,
Yes.
right where the net is?
Where the net would be, you mean? Yeah, no, towards the back side of that court that he's talking about.
Okay.
It's, in the spring, it was about a good 3 to 4 inches versus normally it's half inch to an inch.
Yeah.
It's just growing and expanding, and it's got to be the drainage or something underneath there. Like I said, right now we're having to weed whack it because the weeds are just getting out of control up there. So a plan just needs to be made just so we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
and we can answer the public's concerns.
Well, I think we'd want the public's input, like you said,
Absolutely.
anyway, when you,
Yeah.
when you're talking that kind of money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, now seeing nothing else on the agenda, going to entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Thank you.